Hey everyone! During Blizzcon we were given an in-depth look at the Rogue, which I covered in a previous video on this channel. In that same presentation, lead animator Karina Kingdom and lead systems designer Joe Papira shared more details about Diablo 4's open world and PvP system. They started off by talking about mounts and mount collection. Obviously the news about mounts in Diablo 4 is something we've known about for a while. But what we didn't know is that there will be different types of horses, and you can customize your horse with things like armor, hoof plates that can change the speed of your horse, and trophies to showcase your achievements. Also, another interesting thing they mentioned was that they didn't want players to have the ability to fight from their mounts. And while your mount can't be hurt, if you're hit while mounted, you will be forced to dismount. So this gives players something to think about when approaching enemies. Do I want to use my dismounting ability like the Rogue's Rain of Arrows or the Sorcerer's Ice Dash to quickly get into the fray? Or do I want to dismount beforehand to get into better positioning? Given this new information on mounts, I'm still not sure whether or not I'm sold on the idea of them being in an ARPG. I understand that we'll have a much larger open world, but I'm concerned that the necessity for a mount means long, empty stretches of gameplay, where all the content is consolidated to just a handful of areas. But on the other hand, I do like the idea of more cosmetic rewards to work towards, like more mounts and armor for those mounts. And items like hoof plates increasing your mount speed gives the player another area to min-max for their character. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think mounts would be a good addition to the ARPG genre? Or is it a band-aid to fix a developer-created problem? The developers also mention enemy camps throughout the world that have sprung up due to the small population of humans left after Mathiel's destruction. The player can reclaim them by killing the monsters within that camp. Unlike quests, which are random, camps are permanent fixtures throughout the world, and once the player has removed all of the enemies from a camp, it unlocks to the player. After the camp unlocks, it gives the player access to a waypoint there, merchants, a blacksmith, more quests, stories, and even dungeon entrances can appear. This idea of camps that you need to reclaim is exciting, and I only hope that there are enough of them throughout the world to keep it interesting. It would also be interesting to see how they keep camps exciting and fresh every season. Maybe they could create entirely new camps every season with new quests, rewards, and new dungeons. Next, they showcased how player movement throughout the world has become more fluid and immersive, by giving players the ability to climb up and down walls, jump across chasms, and leap down ledges. I think this opens up some interesting opportunity for gameplay, like using the terrain to reposition yourself in dangerous situations, or using the high ground to engage enemies from a more advantageous position. I'm pretty interested to see how these mechanics play out, but I really hope it's not just a flavor thing. Now into the meat and potatoes of this discussion, the PvP. The hatred of Mephisto has been bubbling up from hell and created areas throughout Sanctuary called Fields of Hatred. When a player enters one of these fields, hatred will begin to consume them and turn them against other players. It's in these fields where players can choose to fight each other for shards of hatred or choose to work together to fend off lone hostile players and escape richer than when they entered. There are many ways players can collect shards of hatred, from killing monsters to completing events, opening chests, and obviously killing players. Once you're done collecting the shards, they need to be brought to a purification site to be turned into a usable currency. But you need to be careful because nearby players will be notified that you're trying to purify your shards, and if they choose to do so, they can come and kill you, taking your shards before the purification ritual completes. If you manage to survive the purification process, then you can't lose those shards anymore. This whole mechanic reminds me a lot of the Tomb of the Spider Queen, which is a map from Heroes of the Storm. On this map, players kill mobs and pick up gems that they drop. They then have to turn these gems in before the enemy team does to summon web weavers. But just like the Shards of Hatred, players will drop all their gems if they are killed before turning them in. Even if the developers are actively taking this idea from another one of their IPs, which who knows if they are, I still think it's a great idea. That map in Heroes of the Storm is a lot of fun, and I can see that fun translating well into an ARPG environment. Now suppose you choose the cutthroat approach and try to kill as many enemies as possible in the Fields of Hatred. While this could possibly yield more rewards for you, it also causes the Curse of Mephisto to slowly take you over. And if you continue killing players, then you will become a Vessel of Hatred, which reveals your location on a map in a large area around you to other players. Players will receive a bonus if they kill you, but if you manage to escape without dying, then you receive a large bonus yourself. They then go on to say that there are special vendors you can find around the Field of Hatred to spend your purified shards on. There are even some unique vendors that will sell special costumes, mounts, weapons, and other items to outfit your character. It's important to note that nothing you buy from these vendors is more powerful than items that you can get from other areas of the game. This way, players that aren't fans of PvP won't be forced to engage in content that they don't enjoy. I'm actually curious on how they plan to balance itemization around PvP and PvE content. I wonder if this will be done by making the vendors operate in a similar fashion to Kadala in Diablo 3, where players spend shards to essentially gamble for items, or will the vendors have specific items that they sell, and if so, will the items change every day, week, or perhaps every season? Honestly, I think this whole reveal left me with more questions than answers. Like, how will PvP work in a group setting? Does every player become hostile to each other regardless of groups? How many people will be allowed in the fields of hatred at once? Will the open world utilize a sharding system like WoW? And if so, what determines which players you see around you? Will the purified shards of hatred be tradable? I could go on, but I'll spare you for now. And that about wraps up this video. How do you guys feel about the PvP system? Do you think they're heading in the right direction, or do you feel like they've missed the mark? I'm also curious how you guys feel about PvP in an ARPG in general. Do you like it, or do you hate it? Thanks for watching, guys, I appreciate it. If you haven't seen the rogue reveal, make sure you check out my video where I give a quick rundown about everything you need to know about the rogue. And make sure to subscribe for more gaming content. Take care, everyone.